Hey, it's Liz D'Alto, and this is the Untamed the Wild Soul Woman podcast. From body image, sex, spirituality, money and relationships, to motherhood, creativity, business, communication, and desire, Untamed the Wild Soul Woman is the place to come for real stories and powerful advice to help you reclaim and redefine womanhood in the 21st century. What's up, wild ones? Welcome to episode number 151 of the Untamed the Wild Soul podcast. Today we have a repeat guest. It is my dear friend, Jill Coleman. Some of you might remember her from her first appearance on the show in 2016. This time I've invited Jilly back to talk about something very specific that she is so freaking good at helping people with, and that is food obsession. So this is a Thirsty Thursday episode because I know this is something that some of you will be very interested in, but the general listenership might not be totally into it. So we break these out from our usual Monday schedule to bring you something a little more specific. So if you are someone who thinks about food all the time, beats yourself up about your choices, questions yourself about it, feels frozen about making decisions because you've taken in so much conflicting or complicated nutrition information through books, magazines, and programs over the years, or you regularly don't know what to eat and can't enjoy an easy relationship to food for both vital energy and pleasure without feeling guilty or ashamed, this interview is going to help so much. Couple things we talk about in this one: using food as a control mechanism so you can present in a certain way and how to stop doing that. Using fullness, hunger, satiety, I don't think I'm saying that word right, but we're just gonna roll with it, and satisfaction to navigate the best choices for you personally, right? Because that's one of the problems with diets. If it's designed for the masses, it's definitely not gonna work for every individual. And then also how to deal with all the reasons food creates guilt in your life, from not finishing it to overindulging and etc. So this is a great one. Jill also has a 4-week food obsession bootcamp program that some of you might find helpful. So we'll give you information for that at the end as well. As always, if you have questions, come on over to the Facebook group, untameyourself.com/Facebook. I will be waiting to see who digs this one, what comes up for you, and can't wait to hear what you think. Let's get into the show. Elizabeth D'Alto here. This is another Thirsty Thursday episode. I'm loving these Thirsty Thursdays because it gives me an opportunity to take a deep dive into stuff that I know some of you are super interested in, while the general audience, it might not apply to everyone. And so some of you recognize Jill Coleman. Jill has been on the podcast before. You've already heard me introduce her. Welcome back, Jill.
Thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to talk about this stuff. Some of my favorite stuff.
Oh my God. So I'm going to start by asking you the question we always ask everyone. What are you loving about being a woman these days?
Oh my God. So I do this like at the beginning of every year, I do this kind of like anchor word or kind of like talisman that I want my energy to, you and I've talked about this before, kind of have my energy be focused on this year. So this year, I just got out of a long-term relationship, a 10-year relationship. And for me at this point, it is all about authenticity. I found that I was actually taking on the narratives of people in my life and I didn't realize that. Yeah. So I'm having this like whole just like kind of learning about my wants, desires, things. I mean, it's super exciting and actually super overwhelming. Yeah. But fun at the same time. So for me, it's all about being authentic and kind of like really just unapologetically owning the things about me that are different or feminine or, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's been really fun. So I would say that's the best.
Juicy. It's so juicy. So you and I specifically are diving into food obsession today. And there's a specific reason why I reached out to you about this, because even in my own life, and you know this because you and I have talked about this offline, you know, since moving to California, being in a couple relationships in the last 4 years, I developed a funky relationship with food, and it wasn't anything I'd ever really experienced before. And, you know, even with a background in fitness, a background in health, like I used to do metabolic effect stuff. I used to friggin' help people with nutrition. It was shocking to me that I was still having all the knowledge, still susceptible to getting into like emotional eating patterns and getting like really freaking weird and uncomfortable around food. And the moment, I'll share with you, the moment when I knew it was like not just like a minor thing was I'm at dinner one night and I'm essentially apologizing that I'm about to order some pasta. And I'm like, why the fuck am I like feeling the need to make an announcement about what I'm about to eat? I was with like a super healthy friend and she was getting like vegetables. I think she got like a salad. And I was like, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going for the pasta. And it wasn't even, the fact that I made the announcement wasn't even what got to me. It was that she's like, you get it, girl. Like I needed a pat on the back about eating some fucking food. And I'm like, this is a problem. So I started paying closer attention. I love the idea of Moderation 365. I love how you share these pictures. Over the holidays, you shared something that was like, hey, guess what I'm going to be eating on Christmas? The same thing I eat the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And so I know it's like not particularly sexy. It's not like the next fad, the next diet or whatever, but it's actually sustainable in the long term. It takes out the need for like that rocket fuel that most people don't have that much of to like start a new diet and then stop and whatever. So obviously this is your friggin' wheelhouse. Where's the best place to start around the whole concept of food obsession and, as you call it, Moderation 365?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so much. So I love what you just said, because it just reminds us all that like, this is about, it's not about fat loss. I think that's like a huge shift that people need to make. So like, it depends on what your goal is. The women that I work with have been dieting for like 10, 15, 20 years, right? They started their first diet when they were maybe a teenager. So they come to me and they're like, I just don't want to think about fucking food anymore. Like, help me, like how to not be miserable. And I don't know. So I think to go at a high level, you have to think about food obsession in terms of it's a control mechanism, right? So what you eat depends on like how you feel in your body, what your body looks like. And if I can just look a certain way, or if I can just present a certain image, then that means I'm okay, or I'm good enough, or I'm worthy, or whatever it is. So like for me, a lot of times food is that control mechanism. So it feels really vulnerable to try to start to give up the old ways of doing things. And we're bombarded in our industry. And like you said, you having the know-how isn't the tool. No. So like you can have the know-how, right? And I think that gets confused. People think, oh, if I just get more information, if I just read one more blog, if I just read one more diet book, if I just like the answer's around the corner somewhere, I'm like this close, I can taste that I'm getting ready to have the answer. And the trick is, and the answer is that there is no answer. The answer is that it's really comes down to, and I hate this word, but I'll explain it in a second, intuitive eating, like how to actually feel your body based on the foods that you eat. So anyone who has a sensitivity to a food like gluten or dairy knows what this feels like on a larger scale. So they eat dairy, or they eat gluten, or they eat soy, and they immediately have a response. But we're doing that all the time with all of our foods. So we know what makes us feel satisfied. We know what makes us feel full or not, what makes us open up our appetite or not, what makes our energy feel stable or not. We just need to like reconnect. And this goes right to what you think, what you talk about, Liz, reconnect to those sensations.
Yeah.
The modern dieting industry has like made us stupider in that sense, because we eat every 3 hours, right? That's like, we don't ask ourselves, like, am I actually hungry right now? If I am hungry, what am I hungry for? Could I wait and surf this urge for 20 or 30 minutes? All those kind of intuitive hits, we've like unlearned those. So it's like relearning those. And when people say intuitive eating, that's really what they mean. It's like tapping into the sensations of fullness, hunger, satiety, satisfaction, all of those things that we have lost from all the dieting that we've done, because we've just been following rules. We've been following experts and coaches who don't have a prayer of understanding our body as well as we possibly could. Yep. And yet we're like outsourcing our own like success in a sense. It's not working.
Yeah. And something I noticed a couple of weeks ago, because I hired a trainer and I've been working out, and
how's that going, by the way?
So fun. I love my trainer so much. And it was like, it's kind of like everything else. And even this, I needed to get a trainer, because I started doing your 20 by 20 workouts in the summer, and I love those. That's how I traditionally have always trained, like 20, 30 minutes, hit it hard, high intensity intervals. But the issue wasn't the workout. It was that I wasn't showing up. Totally. Because I spent so many years having to like self-generate and use my willpower on getting my ass to the gym. That's not where my willpower goes these days. Like my life is much different. My responsibilities, what I do on the day-to-day is much different. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have to spend some money. I'm going to have to get someone to tell me what to do. Even though, yeah, I could beat myself up and be like, you used to be a personal trainer. You should know what to do. I wasn't doing it. And if you're not doing it, all the knowledge in the world doesn't matter. So my trainer's awesome. I had asked a friend of mine, Mike Bledsoe, who you might know from the fitness industry. He has a podcast called Barbell Shrugged. Mike,
barbell charge. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, he lives locally and he recommended my trainer. So the guy's a great blend of like foundational stuff, like mind body stuff, but like so knowledgeable. So I'm loving my workouts. And it's also, I think I texted you this, it's like a grittier type of athletic training facility. And it's not just like my beautiful Equinox where I just want to do my executive workout at Equinox, which is basically just, I go there to steam and shower after I work out at like my NACOA, my fitness center. So that's been awesome. But then I'm noticing I'm freaking way hungrier than I've been because I'm working out again.
Right.
So then having to navigate, all right, now that I'm hungry, some of the things I'd been experimenting with was I noticed I don't need to eat as much meat as I traditionally had eaten my whole life. But like higher starch, like I will crash. Like the way that I crash if I eat too many carbs now, it's like literally nap time. It's not even just like you feel a dip. It's like, see you later. I'll be on the couch, you guys. So I can't do that on the day to day. And so... yeah, then navigating what's enjoyable. And these things you said, I love it. Fullness, hunger, satiety, if that's how you say that, satisfaction. And just remembering that like I can take joy in food, but food can't be my primary source of joy.
Right. I think that's the thing, right? Like that's what we're all trying to get to. We're all trying to get to this place where food is completely neutralized.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine calls it like nutritional nirvana. And I like that because it's like this place where like there's no like good associated with it, bad associated with it, emotion associated with it. You could literally take it or leave it. So when people are like, gee, Jill, it must be nice to feel that way. Like, I don't really think about food all that much. And of course, when we talk about moderation 365 or food obsession, that's really what the ultimate goal is, to not feel as though your entire day revolves around your meals or like, what am I having? And this constant ongoing calculation of protein grams and how much carb have I had? And have I had enough water? And like really just neutralizing all of that. Yeah. And so that takes a long time. And, you know, Liz, with a lot of the stuff that we do, it's like whether it's building a business, building a body, working on your food obsession, personal development, you don't just do it overnight. And I think we all have this idea that it's going to be something that we can just slot ourselves into and all of a sudden it's working. Yeah. So I think one of the hardest things that when I work with women who are doing the call all or nothing way of eating, when they do kind of the all or nothing eating, the hardest thing to move to that moderation is that they're not willing to do the practice and have the patience. Yeah. So what happens is they go, oh, this is good. I'm practicing moderation. I'm doing that a little bit more. But then they have a binge episode, right? Mm-hmm. But that's still going to happen. That's still going to happen 3 months in, 6 months in. It's going to happen a lot less.
Yes.
But you have to recognize that. So it's not that, it doesn't mean that you're off. And just to something that you said about feeling more hungry, I think it's important part of this process to honor that and not make it mean that like all of a sudden you're going to be so hungry for the rest of your life and you're going to gain 50 pounds. Like I think we tend to think like we're off on a tangent and we're not going to be able to pull ourselves back. So one example is, especially for women, when we're going to get our menses, like the week that we're getting our period, like we're just going to be more hungry. We're going to have more cravings just hormonally. And instead of making that mean that it's bad or, something's wrong, just honor it. Like maybe just be more mindful, have a little bit more protein, a little more vegetables, have like a little bit more chocolate. It's fine because next week you'll be back to normal. Yeah. And just trust that your body has that self-regulatory power and you don't have to control it every second. If you listen to it, your body will tell you. It's hard. There's a lot of steps.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps, but this is what I dig about you. I know personally in your own life, you've done so much mindset work. Yep. And a lot of this, it's literally not about the food. It actually is about the mindset because our mind is the place where we have put all the meaning and constructed all the meaning around what we're putting in our mouth means and what's going to be the outcome. So I really liked what you said about the neutrality and not making it good or bad, because even like catching the vocabulary, being like, oh, I'm being good today. And again, in the context of like being out, I even would notice like feeling like, damn, I'm really in the mood for this. And this is what I want. Everyone else is getting a salad. Oh shit, maybe I'll get a salad. But it's like, no, I don't want one. And nor do I don't need to apologize. I don't need to acknowledge it. I don't need to make an announcement about it. But noticing any of those impulses in me shows me that like I've made an issue out of something that doesn't need to be an issue. And the other point you made about, people don't want to do the work.
Well, they don't want it because we're just used to there being something faster, right? So we're looking at our friend or a family member or someone we know who's doing like the cookie diet, or they just started paleo, or they're doing the 30-day, like 21-day sugar detox. Like, so everyone around us is doing all of these kind of shorter term things, and they use the hook like you can do anything for 21 days.
Right. But then guess what happens after 21 days?
Right. And that's when it's like, okay, you can, but then like what happens on day 21? So it's not, you're doing, I call it like band-aiding, right? You're doing like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. And then like you come out years later, literally years later, and you still don't have the tools that you need to create long-term success. So with moderation, to your point, about feeling guilty or feeling like shame around ordering things or like owning. It's really about owning your choice, isn't it? To me, we get the most upset with ourselves when we eat something we weren't planning on eating.
Yeah.
So we're like, ooh, I'm going to be so good. We maybe go to an event or we go out with people and then we're like, I'm going to be so good. And then we end up overindulging. The next day we're like, I can't believe I did that. And that's when we really beat ourselves up instead of preemptively going, you know what? I'm going out to an event. I'm going to just like mindfully have a couple things. I'm going to be more discerning. I'm going to see there's like 10 options here. Which ones of those 10 do I really want and which one can I take or leave? And it's just that practice of that mindfulness practice, that discernment that puts you back in your power. So you wake up the next day and you're like, I did really well last night. Like, let's move on. What's next? Instead of like reliving the shame and the guilt and the self-disgust that you experienced from the night before. So it's really about owning your choice. I'll tell you a quick story and this might help people. I talked to this woman at an event I was speaking at last year, and she came up to me after the event. She's like, I love all of this. But here's what happens. I do so well during the day. I'm so good during the day, but every night I drive home and I drive, by CVS. And sometimes I'll jump in and I have to like pick up a couple things, and I always get Reese's peanut butter cups. And I hate that I do that. Every single night I get Reese's peanut butter cups. And so I was like, could we reframe this? And instead of going, I can't believe I did it again, could you actually just plan to have like one Reese's cup per night? Like let's just plan ahead of time that like I'm going to have one. And that's what, 100 calories? It's like nothing.
Yeah.
So it takes away like the guilt and this mental aerobics that we do around food, and just says, I'm going to not only not feel bad about it, I'm going to actually plan to do it. It's 100 calories. It's going to have zero impact on your physique, and it's going to keep you more satisfied and satiated so that when you hit the weekend, you're like, I'm good. I've been satisfying myself all week long with these small nutritional gimmies, this little bit of nutritional relief that pays off. And that's how you kind of start evening out these highs and lows. And that's why we call it Moderation 365. Every day is the exact same.
Yeah. And I love the idea of honoring the choice, right? So there's just like beating yourself up isn't even an option because your plan was to freaking be moderate.
Yep. Exactly.
And so you're never making a wrong choice, or you're never making a bad choice, and you're never doing the checks and balance system. Well, I ate this last night, so I better work out a little harder tomorrow or beat myself up about it. I want to go back to the mindset around your day not revolving around your meals.
Yep.
Where do people start with that? Like if people are literally... it feels like a survival thing. Like, what am I going to eat? It has to be good. Where am I going to be? Like, it does take some planning and preparation to, quote, again, be good, or to like stick with what you know works for you. But life doesn't always work that way. Like one of the places where I notice I really get off track when I'm traveling. I remember you and I having this conversation actually in Portland the other summer at WDS, and me being like, you saying, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not a person who needs to, like, eat the food in the place. But, like, I do. I love that. Like, when I go to Portland, I want to try the voodoo donuts. Like, I want to try the stuff. But I don't want to feel shitty about it.
Right.
So what's the mindset? I think that's probably just some reframes and stuff. But how do you help people with that?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So again, to me, I always comes back to this like control versus trust continuum, right? So like on one hand, we have this like very high level of control, and it's not that it's very smart, I think, to prepare your food and like you said, to have like some idea of what you're going to have that day. I think it is smart. However, we can't discount the fact that there's going to be like there's going to be mental energy involved in that's going to take away from other things. I do think it's smart. One of my practices is I just don't cook food. You know that I don't cook food, and wouldn't actually recommend that for people. But for me, that was the switch that I needed to learn to trust myself anywhere. So it was about 5 years ago, and I was so sick of doing Sunday food prep. On Sunday, I would get all this food, and I would make it, and I'd eat it for like 2 or 3 days, and I would just be so disgusted with it, and I'd want to go somewhere else. I want to go to dinner. I want to have something else. And I was just so disgusted with my own food and the whole process, and I was exhausted. And I said, you know what, this week, I'm not prepping food. It was the first time in like 10 years that I hadn't done food prep. And I was like, I'm just not doing it. I don't care if I end up at McDonald's drive through every single meal. I literally don't care. It's totally fine. Because that was what I was scared of, right? I was scared of being out of control and gaining 50 pounds over that week.
Yeah.
So I navigated. It wasn't perfect eating, but I didn't gain weight. And it showed me that even if I didn't have the resources that I need or the food ready, I was able to have, I mean, not ideal meals, but protein shakes, protein bars, a salad from Whole Foods. Like I was able to like pick and choose and like put together this meal plan from not having everything perfectly prepped and ready. And that experience alone, that like 1 week experience, was what I needed to start trusting myself. So to your point, going to a restaurant or going to Portland or going to a place that has an amazing meal or like an amazing dish that you want to try, I think get it, but then be mindful about it. So go and get the donut, but be like, okay, I'm going to get these 2 donuts because I want to try these 2 out of the dozen that are here. These are the 2 that And you know what? I'm going to have a couple bites of each. I'm going to share it with someone else.
That's right.
Or, I mean, I'm just going to throw it away. I know that's not like sexy to say, but like, unless you're going to like mail it off to like a kid in Africa, like give it to a dog or give it to a, you know what I mean? I think there's a lot to be said for, we don't have to finish it. And a lot of that's ingrained from our parents or just like this kind of value discount mindset, free food, you know, buy one, get one. Like we have all these kind of, I mean, food really is marketing. We see all this stuff around. The story I always tell my mom, I love her, but she loves like TJ Maxx and Marshalls and like discounts, and she just loves a great deal. So one time she went grocery shopping, came home and had 2 boxes of like Dove chocolate bars. And I was like, I didn't know you even ate those. And she was like, oh, no, I don't, but they were BOGO. Like buy one, get one. Let me get this straight. You bought something you normally wouldn't buy just because you got 2 of them. And she's like, yeah, I feel like I got a deal. So we're being bombarded all the time with these like, and food is marketing in our brain. We go, it's free food. We go to an all-inclusive resort. We go to all-you-can-eat buffet. We go to someone's giving out free food at work. We feel like we need to take advantage of it. Otherwise, there's some level of FOMO or whatever. So it's unlearning a lot of those kind of like old constructs, you know? And so how do you help someone? My number 1 is a preemptive approach. Having things every single day that satisfy you so that they take the edge off enough so that you get to the next day without feeling deprived. And then you get to the next day without feeling deprived. And you get to the next day. So by the time you get to Friday, you can take it or leave it.
Yeah. And the name of the game is don't feel deprived. Because I feel like that feeling of deprivation, that resentment and that system of checks and balances always lands you in a place of, I deserve this.
Yep.
And like making the choice out of resentment or what you feel owed because you've put effort and whatever like messed up way in your brain. And that goes with everything, by the way, like food, with money. Like I remember all the years when I was like really tight on money and I was like working my ass off. And every once in a while I would fly off the handle and buy something that it was such an irresponsible purchase because I just needed to get that hit of being able to do something I actually fucking wanted to do.
Yep.
And so same with food, right? I've been so good. I've been so good. Donut, you know? Like,
well, and also you have to think about it like, well, not only mentally are you so super drained to the point of feeling like just deserving, but at the same time, your physiology is now deprived too. Yeah. So like so it's both. So like your cravings are higher. Your hunger is actually higher cumulatively. Like the hormonal situation is such that your body wants you to fucking eat. Yeah. So there's the physiological and then there's also the mental side of it. And so it's a losing battle. So I always say, anytime you deprive, there's always going to be equal and opposite overindulgence based on that deprivation. It might happen a week from now, it might happen 12 weeks from now, it might happen a year from now, but it's always going to be coming because you can't win a battle of wills against your own physiology. It's just impossible.
I love that. Anytime you deprive yourself, there's going to be an equal and opportunity situation for overindulgence. Yeah.
There is. Yeah. It's always going to be, you can't get away with it. So to your point, it does start with deprivation. Whenever we start dieting, there's always going to be that overindulgence piece. And then what do we do once we overindulge? We're like, oh, I need to just get back on it. And so we vow to be even tighter, be even cleaner, which is just exacerbating. It's like negative feedback loop that you can't get out of. Yeah. So it actually starts with satisfying yourself, even in those moments that you wake up and you're disgusted with yourself from the bad weekend you had. You wake up on Monday and you're like, I need to feel satisfied today because I know if I don't, it's gonna be a boomerang this week.
Start the loop again. I want to go back to, let's talk about not finishing food. This is really funny, actually. A client of mine taught me this last year. And first of all, here's a couple things that suck around this, honestly. We do live in a culture where I think a lot of people have a lot of awareness about not wanting to be wasteful and like how privileged and fortunate we are. So I certainly feel guilt This is why it's so important to know yourself. And so like to go to your point earlier of going, I don't cook food. I'm not doing food prep anymore. I don't want to do that. I've been navigating that. My approach to that is like a hybrid. I actually really do like cooking. I hate leftovers. I hate reheating food. I hate freaking cold food. I hate food that was made 3 days ago. So if I'm going to cook, I want to cook fresh, which means I'm literally going to go to the grocery store, get exactly what I need, make it, and enjoy that meal immensely. Maybe I'll have like one batch of leftovers, right? Other than that, I eat out way more. And I'm able to make, like you say this all the time too, you can make a good choice. Like there's always a good option. You could always say, hold this, hold that, add more vegetables to this, keep the bun on that, whatever is your thing. But not finishing food. And then, for those of us, especially who live in the US, the portions are so big. So like take a leftover, take it with you, find a homeless person on your way home to give it to, or just leave it there. But one of my clients, she said this thing that her mom does, which I loved, and I started doing it because not only is it effective, but it's hilarious. Have I ever done this when I'm with you? When I just dump pepper all over my plate?
No.
So it's like if you're done and you know that any bite you take beyond this point is going to give you a stomach ache, you're going to be overly full, destroy that plate. Either get them to take it as soon as humanly possible, or like take the ketchup, take the mustard, take the pepper, destroy that plate so it's uneatable.
That's so funny. Actually, you know what? I'm so glad you said that, because that was something that when I was in transition, so most people have they have two ways of being. They're either starving or stuffed. Like those are the only two things they can actually comprehend about their level of hunger. I'm either starving or stuffed. So my practice with my women is like the mindfulness piece. So if you have starving over here and stuffed to the point you have to open your pants here, how do you start to feel in your body those little places in the middle, right? Yeah. So to you, it's like, okay, I know if I have any more bites, I'm going to be like, I'm on stuffed, right? So maybe you eat to like 80% fullness. Most of us don't know what 80% fullness feels like. For me, it's you could eat more. Like that's how you know you're at 80%, you could actually eat more. So one of the practices that I used when I was first kind of like starting to learn this was I put a napkin over my entire plate. Like I would just put it over, and I would stick gum in my mouth. Like I would just be like a minty gum or something like that. I would keep my purse and I would just like stick it in my mouth. And I was like, okay, mouth is occupied. Napkin is over plate, which cues server to maybe take it, and so now it's more habit. But I think at the time I was having to use little tricks like that.
Yep. Yeah.
Not a long-term solution, but it's certainly like better than stuffing yourself because you feel bad that you didn't finish it all.
And the gum is such a great idea too, because it's going to mess with the taste of your mouth. So like any bite that you might then take isn't actually going to be that enjoyable anyway. So, and I'll also share, in an attempt to deprive or like food prep or do these things, I can't tell you the amount of food I ended up throwing out because I didn't cook it.
Same.
Because I didn't want to. And then I feel guilty about that. So it's like a double bind. Right. Either way, you're being wasteful. So you might as well, if you have to, be doing it in the way that best serves to nourish your own body.
That's true. I mean, that's the thing is like you can certainly finish it all because you feel guilty about it, but who's the one who's losing in that case? You know what I mean?
Right. It's like, I'm going to not feel guilty, but I'm also going to eat way more than I need. I'm going to feel like shit.
Feel awful.
And then I'm actually going to feel guilty anyway, but just about something different.
There's a lot of different options, you guys. And I know it's always a touchy subject. Whenever you talk about wasting food, I get a lot on Jill Fit, people being like, but they're starving people. And I get that. And I totally understand that.
Like,
and
compost it, like do something about it.
Exactly. Give it to someone, take it home, give it to a friend, split it. I mean, here's one thing is like a lot of times when they say your eyes are bigger than your stomach, that's very real. Here's the thing. If you're out to dinner with someone and you're like, I'm really hungry, but I'm aware that I don't want to waste food, get something and split it, because you can always order something more, right? Totally. It's not just like, so don't feel as though you have to know what you're going to feel like at the get-go, like order more food. I do that all the time. I'm like, let's split this. And then if I'm still hungry, and chances are 90% of the time you won't be still hungry.
It's true.
But if you are, you just order more food. Like that's that abundance practice. So many of us have scarcity around food. It's crazy. Is there going to be enough? Is there going to be enough? How much, I won't have enough. It's just like this constant, I'm wasting food. I have this value mindset about food.
Yeah, and I even on New Year's, I had some people over, and I decided to just do it like a pizza party because I didn't feel like making an intricate meal. I didn't feel like potlucking it because then people bring all kinds of random stuff, and that's a recipe for a stomach ache. You're just like, these foods don't go together. And so I had all these leftover pizza ingredients, and I did actually eat a couple pizzas over the course of the week. I just made them. I threw a ton of veggies on it, and it was a blast because I freaking love pizza. And then like the leftover stuff like cheese and like whatever that I'm just like, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to manufacture a reason to use it. I'm just going to throw it away and it's going to be all right.
I think a lot of people throw away food. Like what you said before, when people do food prep, they buy so much food. And then by Wednesday or Thursday, they are so disgusted and so just like drained on it. I was doing this week after week after week. I'm throwing out way less food now than I ever have.
Right.
So the idea that like the food prep, I like the way that you say is like maybe buy enough food for like a couple days. And of course, if you have a family, like I don't have a family, so I don't know what it's like
totally.
to like
you got to manage it differently.
Like, 4 6 people, you have to food prep, right? Like you can't be eating out all the time.
Yeah.
But I do think we can get smarter about it. And also, you have to have food that you actually enjoy. So if you're cooking something because you think it's healthy or because it's clean and you find yourself dreading it when it's time to eat it, then like that's not the solution. That's not the meal that you should be having.
Totally. And thank you for bringing up the family thing because I have a question. I know like you don't have a family and you don't have like kids and things to factor in, but I know you've worked with like literally hundreds and thousands of women over the years. How do people navigate this if they have, I mean, here's the thing. No one has to have shitty food in their house, right? Like I know people like sometimes moms will be like, yeah, but my kids eat this. Well, then maybe your kids don't have to eat that. Or maybe they do. Like I don't have kids, so I don't know how those choices get made. But how do people navigate that if they have to be, or they have roommates, right? And so that's like adults. You're not going to tell other adults that you share a home with not to eat things. Mm-hmm. How do you help people who are like, yeah, but there's still Oreos in my house and there's still this, this, and this. It's easy for us to only have in the house what we want, but that's not everyone's situation.
I love this question so much because I think I'm going to say the opposite of what someone will think I will say, which is I actually think it's good that you have that stuff in there. I think exposure therapy is extremely important. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is as soon as we start being scared of certain foods, of being around certain foods, to me, it's 1.0, right? Like we've all seen those reality television shows where the personal trainer comes into someone's house and is like ripping out donuts from the cabinets. Like we know that we shouldn't be having donuts in our cabinets. We don't need someone to tell us that. It's not rocket science. But we do because we have kids or roommates or whatever. That stuff's going to be around. So instead of being scared and being like, ooh, I just can't trust myself around chips, well, that's 1.0, out of sight, out of mind. But the 2.0 in my mind is being able to be around any food anytime and being able to manage yourself around it, being mindful. It doesn't mean you don't have it ever. It just means like if my kids have Oreos, then maybe your personal practice becomes I'm having an Oreo every single day, just one Oreo. Pick what meal you want to have it after. Maybe it's after dinner. And instead of being like spending all your mental energy, like I can't have them. They're in there. They're in there. They're in there. They're in there. And like you're resisting all the time.
like the box of Oreos is talking to you from the pantry.
That's what we do. We're like, I can't have Oreos. I can't have Oreos. And the more we do that, if you are doing that, operating in that way, you're going to eat the entire box of Oreos rather than coming from a place of permission and a place of just like abundance and going, you know what, even if blame it on me, be like, Jill told me I can have an Oreo every night. And I guarantee you that 2 weeks from now, you just like won't even remember that the Oreos are there.
Yeah.
So it's like that exposure therapy takes the illicitness out of the food. I'm like sick of us having food up on a pedestal, like practice. So if there's something, I did this with peanut butter because I couldn't trust myself to not eat an entire jar over like the span of 2 days. So I was just like, all right, my practice was taking one big spoonful after each meal. And even though it was calories and it was fat and all that stuff, to me, I ended up eating way less food and I started dissipating that obsession with peanut butter over now I can have it and like not even notice it's there. So I think you can do this systematically, like pick one food. And I teach this in Food Obsession Bootcamp. Pick one food and like start to have exposing yourself to it and trusting yourself around it and being mindful around it and giving yourself permission to have a little bit of it every single night. And then a couple weeks later, you won't even notice it's there.
Yeah. I love how brilliant that is. And I love that it's like systematic over time where then you don't have to live your life in fear of things. Because that's never, I mean, it's the same. And again, this applies to other conversations. It applies to dating. Oh, I can't trust myself around men. Good luck finding a relationship. Yep. Right? If you're going to be like,
all sorts of men.
I know. Like all these types of things. Or I can't trust myself around alcohol. But at the same time, you do get to honor yourself and set boundaries wherever you might need them. So even for me, one of the things I noticed is you've used this word several times in this conversation, mindfully. One of the things I have done is largely eliminate situations where because I know myself, I am not going to be able to make mindful choices, right? So instead of my social life revolving around going to coffee or going to dinner, I invite people over. Like I go for walks. I like do other things with people. And a couple times a week, I'll go to like lunch or breakfast or dinner. But it's not all the time. Like that was my primary mode of connecting with people before. And then I'm like eating mindlessly because like I'm engrossed in conversation. I don't even notice I'm full. Because like you said, the reason I have awareness around what's 60, 70, 80% full is because I'm paying attention to it. But if I'm not paying attention, before I know it, my stomach hurts and I'm like, oh shit, I overate because I wasn't even like, or I'm like watching Jimmy Fallon or watching a movie and just eating. Like you got to like breathe and pay attention to be able to feel things.
Mindfulness is also one of those words that I kind of hate because like it gets thrown around so much and it has so many different contexts. So one of the things that I teach in Food Obsession Bootcamp is actually how to do it. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, just be mindful. And you just want to like grab the person and be like, what does that mean? Like you just don't. So,
you just want to like you want to punch hippies.
You do. You're just like.
That. Yeah. No offense if anyone identifies as a hippie. I do too.
I know, I kind of.
You know.
But I love, so the concept is amazing. To me, mindfulness is like the ultimate tool. So we're talking about tools when it comes to eating, and mindfulness is the top tool, top dog. And it's one of those things that you have to practice, but it's very simple. It's just watching yourself. Yeah. And I know, and again, that's like super just like nebulous, but there's ways in which that you can like prompt yourself to watch yourself. So one of the things is asking yourself, how full am I right now? So what I have my girls do is, and this isn't a forever solution, but it's a transition solution. You have sticky notes and you put one on your computer, you put one on your fridge, you put one in your car, you put one on your purse, like you put them wherever you need to see them. And it just says, how full are you right now? How hungry are you right now? How satisfied are you right now? I like the I call it satisfaction factor to check in with how satisfied you feel, because that's the thing, right? The more satisfied we are, the less likely we are to overindulge or to binge later. Totally. So having these little cues, you can also set your timer on your phone for every 3 hours. And it's just this quick mental check-in. It's just asking yourself the question. And it's like, how full on a scale from 1 to 10 am I? How hungry on a scale from 1 to 10? And it's this practice of awareness and checking in that over time, and it's really cool the way it works, because even the tiniest bit of effort on mindfulness really does pay off. Like a month from now, you're just thinking about it without even noticing. Yeah. And you wake up 6 months from now and you're just like, that's how I operate now. So a lot of people think mindfulness takes a lot of work. They're like, gee, Jill, that sounds like mental obsession. It's actually the opposite. It's like automated thinking. Yep. Once you get to that point, but it does take a little bit of ramp up and a little bit of activation energy at the beginning. So that's why using prompts, like the alarm clock on your phone, and you won't have to do it for long, by the way. Like your body picks up on it pretty quick. We're using these Post-it notes as just reminders to tap into how hungry, how full, how satisfied am I craving? What am I craving? Why am I craving? Like just asking yourself those questions. Then before you know it, 6 months from now, you're just like, that's how you live. And it's really cool.
Yeah. There's a couple of psychological and scientific things to back that up for the people who like to geek out on these things. It's not just concept and theory. So one of them is actually biologically, women especially, this is to our advantage because we are so good at adapting. And many of us adapt in like negative ways. We adapt to poor behavior from our partners and relatives. And like we adapt to like just accepting other people's boundaries and like not setting our own. But when it comes to this, like being adaptable is enormously advantageous. And what Jill is referring to, there's actually a term for it. It's the stages of learning, right? Like some of you are hearing some of the things we're talking about. And this is phase 1 for you. You didn't know this. You didn't know that you could actually just choose satisfaction and that would be okay, or, whatever, right? And so as you go into this transitional phase is when you do know what you don't know, and it's called conscious competence. It's when it does require a little bit of effort in your mind to put the practices into place, but then you eventually move into unconscious competence where you know what you know it, you know how to do it, you're practiced at it, and it's like now on autopilot. So like it's basically becomes, it's not that it's effortless, but it feels effortless because you no longer need to think of it. You don't need the sticky notes, and you're just like, it becomes a way of life. So this is super, super useful, Jilly. Quick break in the show, y'all, to remind those of you who are listening in real time, and that means it is the month of January in the year 2017, that Terry Cole and I did a webinar on January 11th. Those of you who listened to Terry's podcast, episode number 147, know we started a huge conversation around relationships, codependency, manipulation, control, all the bad habits, wounding, and patterns that wreak havoc not just in our romantic relationships, but in all of our relationships. So we did this webinar. It was amazing. It went almost 2 hours because we stuck around. We answered tons of people's questions. It was so good. And the replay for that webinar is totally free, and it's available through January 31st this month. So if you want to listen to that webinar, you can visit untameyourself.com/real-love-webinar. I'll spell that for you. It's untameyourself.com/REALLOVE-WEBINAR. Real Love-Webinar. It'll be up till January 31st. And also, Terry is offering an amazing course called Real Love Revolution. I am a proud referral partner for Terry because that woman has absolutely helped me revamp my relationships and heal from so much stuff I didn't even friggin' know I needed to heal from. So for anyone who's interested in Terry's course and signs up through the link on that webinar, which is untameyourself.com/real-love, I have some extra Wild Soul Movement bonuses for you. You get 3 full-length Wild Soul Movement videos where we use mantras that will help you really integrate and embody all of the teachings in Terry's course. So those are my gift for those of you who sign up for Terry's course. You can forward your email confirmation receipt when you sign up to hello@wildsoulmovement.com. But all those instructions are also on the webinar page. So again, that link is untameyourself.com/real-love-webinar. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out sometime before January 31st. And even if you're not interested in the course, again, that webinar is free, and what we covered on it is freaking awesome. Thank you so much, and let's go. So thank you so much. And I know you have your course. It's called Food Obsession Bootcamp. Is it 4 weeks?
It's 4 weeks. And obviously that's not like as long it's going to take to make all these switches. However,
Right.
it's an educational based course delivered via video and emails. So you're getting like constant tools, strategies, insights, and I share a whole bunch of examples because I think that's one of the hardest things is it's really easy to go like, oh, that sounds great, Jill, mindfulness. But if you don't know what that looks like in practice. So I share a lot of stories from my own life and from my clients and what have worked for them. So like literally when you're out with friends in different scenarios and kind of how you can feel out those scenarios.
I love that so much because, you said something much earlier in the conversation. If you're like the only one doing this in your family, or you don't have a model for it because you've never seen anyone else do this, like maybe only Jill, and you're like, well, easy for you sexy fitness person, right? I live in wherever. Shit doesn't work for me. You need examples. You need to know that women like you have done this. And I know, all of Jill's stuff, it's just practical. It just makes sense. And I love that I know that you err on the side of like over giving tools and strategies, fully knowing that not every tool, not every strategy is going to work for everyone. Mm-hmm. Everyone does not have to use every single tool, every single strategy, but it's enough that you could like do some trial and error, some very worthwhile trial and error. So when you discover what works for you, boom, stick with that, and then you're good to go. Because I think that's the goal, is to be good to go. Like, imagine, like, really, some of you listening to this who, like, you're really into this and you're going to try this. I want you to come into the Facebook group, untameyourself.com/Facebook, and I want you to tell me, seriously, how much mental and emotional effort and energy would be available to you if you were no longer obsessed with food. If it was literally on autopilot, like you're going to get a chunk of your life back.
It's so funny to say that, Liz, because it's funny. It's disorienting for people at first.
Yeah.
So what I hear all the time is like, is this right? Like, I'm not like thinking about it as much. And like, that feels wrong. It feels like I'm not doing enough. That's like the feedback that I get when you start to make this transition is people are like, it feels weird to not be counting and measuring and like, and it's disorienting. And if you're starting to feel that way, you're just like, is this okay? Does this mean I'm not working hard enough at it? Because we're used to, right? Like we're used to managing food with like this grind mentality. Like it's so hard all the time. It has to be tough or else we're not going to get results. So when you start to feel that switch, just know that it's completely normal. It's part of the journey. And that's the whole point of doing this is so that we can get that time back to with our friends, our family, create something, our business, whatever that looks like. And it's a really cool process. Yeah. But actually as part of the course, at the end of the course, I have something called a tools roundup. And it's basically I list every single tool and exactly what it is from the course. And I have the girls actually respond, with the 1 to 2 that were the most resonant for them and that they are going to practice moving forward. So to your point, it's like if you have 1 or 2, they make a huge impact, by the way. So it's not like you have to do like all 10 things. And if you don't, it won't work. It's like literally 1 or 2 of them and like you're good to go. And it switches over time, but it's just like navigating that whole process.
Yeah, it's so good. So for those of you listening, if you want to check out Jill's course, you can go to untameyourself.com/food. And this interview goes up on January 26th. So anything else that you want that Jill and I might have mentioned that might be in the show notes is going to be at untameyourself.com/episode-151. And you can find Jill's website, follow her. I know she's on Instagram and Facebook all the time. But the other thing is when can they enroll in the course by? Does it close?
No, the course will be open. So it's open that week. It's just opening up on the 24th and then it's open the price goes up. So it's open for a week and then the price goes up.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So if you're listening to this in real time, between January 26th and February 2nd, you get like a nice little deal. And then after that, it'll go up, but it'll still be available and totally freaking worth it. Because again, think of it this way, you guys. The amount of money that you spend on diets, on magazines, on different types of foods, on supplements, on all these things that are supposed to be the quick fix. Imagine if you weren't spending that money.
That'd be really nice.
On, doing other weird things that we do when we're like in that dieting loop, which is like buying clothes that are too small in hopes that they might fit us. And then like a year later, you're like, nope.
I used to have like a range of clothes from like size 4 to like 10. And I honestly, Liz, like I haven't had, like I'm in the same clothes that I've been in for the last 5 years. And just so like a lot of times when we talk about this, it feels really nice. Like, gee, Jill, it must be nice for you. You just must be like genetic or whatever. I want to tell you guys for the first 30 years of my life, I lived in all or nothing. I couldn't be around food. I would polish everything off. Yep. I did the Sunday night roundup. I went like directly to the grocery store Friday nights at 5 o'clock and got like all the treats and sweets that I wanted and ate them all weekend. Woke up, Monday morning feeling awful. I did that like weekly deprive and binge for years. And I had the biggest appetite of anyone I knew. Like, so it's possible to really retrain your physiology and more importantly, retrain how you think about food, but you have to be willing to do something different. And
the other cool thing about having a course is with someone to support you and other people who are also doing it, there's an accountability and a community factor there. That's pretty cool. So if you want to check out Jilly's course, go to untameyourself.com/food. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on and having the conversation, but also like, thank you in my own life for, giving me some freedom around this. It was shocking. Like for such a long time, I was in denial. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I was doing all this stuff that I never thought I would be susceptible to. Like I grew up with a mom and aunts who were like always freaking dieting. And I was like, I'm never doing that shit. But when I stopped working out, things started changing and it was just like, things got really different. And I was like, oh, I'm totally doing all the things I never said I would do. So it's super humbling, but it certainly doesn't have to stay that way. And so, totally. Just thank you for doing the work. And also like, thank you for walking your talk. And like you all listening, just like I respect Jill so much. Jill's a good friend of mine. Like I've been at so many meals with Jill over the last 5 years as she's been doing this. And it's always so cool. She's always like, yeah, I'll have a bite. Like, yeah, I'll have some of that. Yeah, I'll have another glass of wine. And it's just like, nothing is a big deal. And again, in a physiological standpoint, hormonal standpoint, because she's not stressing about things, the things she is enjoying are not affecting her body in the same way if there was like a Molotov cocktail of stress hormones coursing through her body, because every meal feels like a fight or flight situation.
It's true.
Like an emergency planning zone meeting where it's like, oh damn, I'm gonna eat this, but I'm gonna have to like fucking start CrossFit this week. I'm gonna have to drink 17 gallons of water and like listen. And I also realized we're laughing about something that for some people who maybe you struggle with eating disorders or like God only knows what your situation is. I don't want you to take us giggling about this as like we don't take it seriously. We're not making fun of you in any way, shape, or form. But it's important even in things like this as well that you take them seriously, but you don't take yourself so friggin' seriously.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. And I think I'm laughing because it's so true and it's something that I did for so long. And
funny because it's true.
It's so true. And I think, and sad in a way. So I'm laughing instead of crying, really,
Yeah,
because like this is a huge, like it's
yeah,
a huge issue.
big time.
And so I think if I could leave everyone one thing, it's try something new. Like you've done the old way. And by the way, the old way will always be there. Like you can
Yeah,
always go start CrossFit or you can always go do a whole bunch of cardio. You can always like go back on a plan. There's always going to be a million diets. If you want to jump on those crash diets, they're always going to be there. So why not try a different way for a
yeah,
while? And I can guarantee you're going to start to trust yourself more, trust yourself around food, trust the process. And the ultimate goal is you'll never actually have to do a diet ever again. I know everyone says that, but that's like actually the idea that there's a diet out there that's better than the one I've crafted over the last 5 years for myself is just not the case. So
yeah. Nobody's ever going to know you better than you know yourself.
okay.
Awesome. All right. One more time, y'all. Untameyourself.com/food if you want to check out Jill's Food Obsession Bootcamp. Thank you so much. I will be seeing you soon, I think. And everyone else, also show notes at untameyourself.com/episode-151 if you want to connect with Jill, follow Jill anywhere. This was awesome. I can't wait to hear how it goes for everyone. Bye.
Bye.
My big work in really all the areas of my life over the last couple of years especially has been realizing that I often operated from a place of wanting to make other people happy and always being tapped into what other people are feeling or what I imagine and project that they're feeling and might want, and then trying to fit myself into that thing, and shifting from that into really fully embodying and inhabiting my own being and being aware of my own desires and wants and ideas and feelings in any given moment, and then coming into relationship from that place.